Always hit start right when you can last sip of coffee here. Last sip of coffee. There you go. Thank you, Erickson. There was a logistic issue, not a Brian issue.
Oh,
Great to see you, Erickson. Let me just quickly check, make sure. Yeah, good cohort. Folks coming in. We'll give everybody a minute. How's the day going, Erickson?
oh, fantastic, fantastic. Moving through the day. Just had my afternoon espresso, so we're pumped and ready to go.
Pumped and ready to go. Ready to unleash power.
Absolutely.
Uh, great. Yeah, we've got a quorum, a good group here. Let's kick it off. Yeah, so great to be here. Cool to see so much interest from everybody in today's topic. Watching Erickson unleash the power of setup audit trail. Unleash, I love that word. So we're gonna get into it here real quick. Hopefully everyone at the end of our session today gets a couple of key takeaways around what Setup Audit Trail is, how to use it, some key best practices, key nuggets that you can take back to your organization. From a logistics standpoint, we'll keep things pretty interactive. So I'll do my best to monitor the chat. We'll save some time at the end, but feel free to interject with questions as they arise based on the unleashing that Erickson does. And then at the end here, we'll try to wrap it up within 20 to 30 minutes. We will save some time for Q&A, a rapid fire session at the end for any questions that come up later on. With that, I don't think I missed anything. Erickson, who are you? And why are you here
Yeah,
today? What informs your perspective?
yeah, absolutely. So Erickson Tweedy, I get to wear a bunch of different hats over here at Arovy, but the one I love doing the most is working with our customers on their Salesforce challenges, how to optimize across, and what gives me that background is I've got a background in Salesforce. I own our Salesforce environment here and have it a few different in organizations, and so really looking forward to the session today, and hopefully getting some great questions from the group as well.
Cool. And he unleashes things. That's what Erickson's known for, unleashing a lot of things internally.
Hopefully
Yeah,
not too much destruction.
yeah. Is that Gladiator? Yeah, so for those that don't know, Arovy, we help customers unleash the power of Setup Audit Trail and unleash other things that help mitigate risk with Salesforce. You see some of the backdrop of other things that we do in terms of who we are, capability wise. We help companies manage their connected apps. We help companies manage their data dictionary. We help companies understand change and the impact of change on their orgs. Anything you think of unleashing, think of Arovy. Unleashing Salesforce, think of Arovy. Yeah, Arovy.com. We're on LinkedIn. Erickson's on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. Feel free to connect with us. And with that, no questions so far. No questions so far. What is Setup Audit Trail? That's a great start point. Erickson, what is Setup Audit Trail for those that are with us? A pretty broad spectrum of
Yeah,
seniority and roles.
yeah, absolutely. So depending on your experience in Salesforce, it's either something you send your team to or something you've rolled your eyes at 1,000 times. But basically, to summarize it, it's a very detailed log of the changes that have happened in your Salesforce environment. That can be, hey, I added a new flow. We modified some Apex, or we've changed some permissioning inside the environment and given permission, taken away permission. So it's very, very granular at what it does. And that has some usage across the org that we'll dive into a little bit more. But as we kind of talk here, the one of the key challenges with it is it's a limited window of time. It does a 6-month snapshot. So if you've got things you need to go back to that are outside of that window, well, you're out of luck if you haven't exported it. And that's that was some of the things that I've done in the past. I had a calendar reminder every 6 months. Let's go take the export again, and just kind of dumped it into a G drive for us to work through. And as I mentioned, at the end of the day, really what it does is it helps folks in the environment, in the Salesforce environment, answer the question of, okay, what changed over a period of time? And that, of course, has different use cases from the security side, but there's plenty of use case, and I think it's more heavily leveraged on the operation side as well.
Cool. Yeah. So what? So heavily capable. In theory, what are some of the key use cases that one would want to take advantage of and leverage Setup Audit Trail for?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, in my experience, and I'm certain there are some folks on this conversation that would raise their hand as well, that said, I jokingly said, roll your eyes at it, because it's one of those features inside the Salesforce platform that, it's the last line of, oh no, something broke. What changed, and how do we go fix that? And I'm certain that there are folks on this conversation, I know I've done it as well, that have exported that CSV file and tried to find the needle in the haystack of something broke. We've started to get some messages from our users that, hey, I can't do this anymore. And so that operational speed up the resolution. I'm not certain how quick it is, just if you're doing it with the CSV export, but it's certainly better than hunting and pecking your way across the Salesforce environment. And so that's really kind of deep into the operational side of things. And that picture of, over a period of time, what's changed in the environment. That same picture, moving over to this governance side of things, and we've worked with a number of our customers that have certain regulations that they have to go through. SOX compliance being one of those, where you have to talk about changes to an environment that can impact financial information. And so we are working with a number of them on helping them feed that information to their regulators. They have to prove that, okay, yep, this changed, and here's the kind of the paper process through that approval. And so that's probably one of the least favorite side of things when you think about the governance and risk portion of it. But it's a reality for those organizations that have to fall into it, and so it can be helpful from that side. But then there are a number of teams that will do kind of periodic audits of changes. So maybe they've got some specific permission sets or profiles that they've got that have kind of high level access, and it's a periodic review of did those change, especially with the rollout that Salesforce has done recently, where you've got to be a little more organized and a little more thoughtful of giving access to integrations. You should have, but they're helping guide that process now. And so being able to monitor that you don't have some scope creep in those permissions is another big one for when you think about risk to your Salesforce environment.
Yeah, we got a question come in. How do I unleash the power of Setup Audit Trail? No, I'm just kidding. I did look. We don't have any questions as of yet. Quiet audience. So why don't we let's keep going. So yeah, I'll ask the question, Erickson. How do we unleash this power? How do we leverage the Setup Audit Trail data to support those key use cases operationally or governance risk related?
Yeah, absolutely. And so for those of the audience that have the Arovy application, we'll jump into that and show some ways. But for the folks that don't, I've dropped in a couple snapshots here, and for the folks on the line that have seen this before, experienced this CSV file, you've got kind of that snapshot on that left side of, okay, hey, I've gone to Setup Audit Trail inside of Salesforce, and that's where I'm going to go download my CSV file. There's a number of ways that, as I'd mentioned, that our users that Salesforce users are coming in and looking at that data from the CSV file. And most often it is one of two things. It is, I have a regular review that I'm doing of it, and so it's taking advantage of that. And most of the time it's, I've got my export, I know what I'm going to do with that, right? I have to prove some specific things. I've got fields that I need to prove or that I know have changed. Let's go show that we've actually done those changes. Or the inverse of that. Let's make sure nothing has changed with these kind of highly leveraged. And so that's really the manual side of it, but it's knowing that it's there and taking advantage of the export. The dream is, for a lot of folks that I've talked to, it's being able to automate a lot of this, being able to be alerted on these critical pieces, and so you can kind of have that more proactive. I know something has changed, and I know it's done immediately. So give me that information, and that's where really, unleashing the power of the data. Again, the data's there, and today it's a very manual process. It's I have to go do this because again something broke, or I have to do this because there are steps that I have to take from a management perspective, a governance perspective, to fall in line with the requirements that we fall under. And so that's the key piece when you think about those today.
Yeah, and Erickson, question on that. So in this mode, who actually uses Setup Audit Trail? Like, what's the profile, and is it
Yeah.
limited? Is it? It seems like it's requires a certain amount of technical expertise and knowledge of all the different things to look for. Like who typically uses it for the current scenarios and the out of box capabilities on the Salesforce side?
Yeah, it's as in the ecosystem, it's hard to put a specific title on it, and as titles are so varied across the industry of who does it. But it is those folks that are comfortable in the back end of Salesforce. It's those that are, I know what I'm looking for, that are really your kind of blanketed Salesforce admins or developers, architects that need to understand the changes that have happened and run through that. That's been the vast majority of folks that I've worked with in the past on taking advantage of this data or digging into this data. You find some folks that have experience in that have maybe moved to other roles, compliance roles or security roles. But the vast majority of your day-to-day users are going to be your admins, your developers, your architects.
Cool. Yeah. So think calendar reminders, think exports, think reactive, checking on things. For those that aren't deep into it, I think most of the audience, I mean, it is a pretty specific topic, so most of the audience is familiar with the native, but all those things that you're doing with the calendar invites to yourself and the exports and kind of reactively trying to remember when to look for things, we help you unleash, I think. Erickson, how do we help unleash? If just cognizant of time here. I don't know if you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to hop over and I'll show you how we're going about doing this today, how I've worked with a number of our customers on this. And, I kind of started to tee this up a little bit, but as I hit share on my screen.
Still no questions. A big group. We know you're there.
Well,
when you're ready, everyone's saving it for the rapid fire.
Exactly.
Erickson loves rapid fire.
I love it. So, that's basically that nasty CSV file is what I've pulled up on the screen here. And so the Arovy application automatically pulls in this data, and we do this near real time for a few reasons. One being kind of the next step down is, okay, great. I can export a file, but I've got to go through a number of click steps to get to it. And then I got to layer my filters on, and I've got to understand, okay, what am I looking for? And so we've given our users the ability, and this is how we're leveraging it a ton internally, to say, okay, I need to start reviewing things that happen. Maybe it's I need to understand, which users made specific changes, or I'm looking for, all of the flow changes that we made in an environment. And so I can start to see those pieces. Great. All I've done is take a CSV file from something I've got on my dashboard to something that's the application. But really that dream scenario is, there are pieces of the Salesforce environment that we need to be more cognizant of, more aware of changes. And even in the step of, I've got a great build and deploy process and we follow that to a T, there are still things that that happen to get done in production environments, and a lot of that's around permissioning. But there are certain things like, hey, okay, I didn't remember that that deployment was going out, or I've got critical pieces of my environment that could possibly be impacted. And so this is where building that alerting, because the last thing I want to do is, I got to go download a CSV file and hunt and peck my way across it. I want to create monitoring around it, and this is where you really unleash the power of the data that already exists, is really creating the monitors around this. And so what this is doing is it's setting up and giving you the ability to be proactively alerted to things. And this covers off on both of those use cases. And again, we've worked with a number of our clients on this. It's something we do internally as well. there are pieces of our environment that are just more important. I've got a couple flows in our environment that basically drive a lot of our go-to-market. And we've got some different folks that make changes in our environment. And so being able to understand, okay, if anything ever changes with one of these flows, let me know. And so I can get incredibly granular with these monitors, say down to a, op flows 1 is what we'll name this one here. And, I can get down to show me anything, any action. So this action is pulling from that action field in the CSV file, and it's a contain. So anything that contains opportunity closed 1, again, if I could spell this afternoon on a Thursday, that would have typed out right. But basically what this is looking for is anytime a change happens to that particular flow, any version of it. So I've gotten away from, I'm looking at version 2 versus version 3. We might obviously flows, you deploy a new version. And so anything that changes to that particular flow, now I'm going to get an alert. I love leaning into Slack alerts, being able to have that message. So basically when I come in, save this, this is now going to immediately send me a notification anytime a change happens to that particular flow. And again, you can get very, very granular. We've started to build in and get very fine-tuned with permissioning around the dedicated integration users that we have for applications. I'm trying to be very conscious of, if I've got a new application that's integrating with our Salesforce environment, ensuring that it only has access to the objects and things that it needs to have, not having that worry of scope creep. As we've kind of seen in the market, that there's some concerns around that. Salesforce has given us some tools around that, but I want to have kind of my double verification of this, so I can actually come in and create a monitor here, and take something like a permission set that we have that I use for some of our integration users, and this could be changes. And again, one of my favorite things is looking at that action there. And I can do, I've got an integration user that I use. And as you all have seen, not my best spelling, but again, setting that up. And so now anything that changes around this specific one, and you can get very detailed. So I've done a broad one here, integration user view all, because I've got a couple buckets there for that. And again, looking at the changes here, but again, you can keep this very, very broad to, I need to know anytime a permission set changes, or anytime a user has been assigned the sysadmin profile. You can kind of see some of the templates that we've built out here. And so those are kind of some areas where we're helping. And again, you can set this up, goes out to any number of users. You can set up distribution. So really helping distribute the notifications to who you need, when you need it.
You really unleashed it there, Erickson. I'm going all in on it. Yeah, so think for the audience, so think of manual to automated, think of from reactive to proactive with the monitors, and then think of from single points of failure to observed with monitors that communicate out to a broader group as these critical changes happen, to make sure that someone just didn't make a mistake when they were trying to do all the right things, and for that observability and the key capability that helps you reduce risk and make it easier to understand what's happening across the environment. All right. What did you miss, Erickson? Anything you missed, or should we open up rapid fire question round?
It's hard to get everything encompassed into this, because there's so much information that's captured inside a Setup Audit Trail. So it's really let's find the couple wins, let's get rolling with that, and that's really what we work on, and kind of finding those key pieces. But there's going through the testing of this with our product team, there are literally hundreds of different scenarios that that you could possibly create off of this. So yeah, looking forward to all the great questions from the group.
So don't eat the elephant at once.
Absolutely.
Find a couple of key use cases that are painful because they're manual, because they occur often, because they're from the right, a certain group of people that matters more or has a louder voice, and then make progress over time. All right. Question. Rapid fire. And we're live here, so if we don't get questions, we don't seed questions. It's not our MO. It's not our MO. So here, Erickson, what questions should people be asking? I know I asked a couple, but what questions, if you were on the other line here, let's say you're
Yeah.
dealing with some compliance issues and you've got some regular, like what questions should people, what's one question that if you were on the other end of this and you were familiar with Setup Audit Trail's power, but
Yeah.
couldn't unleash it, what question would you have?
Yeah. So there's the one that always jumps out, and this is the inevitable question, and you kind of talked about with don't eat the elephant. It's what's the first thing? Like, where do we start? And yeah, that's always the well, it depends. But really, to your what you said, and what we've kind of talked about, it's find the most painful thing, or the thing that you end up having to search on the most. Set that up, or the one that keeps you up at night is probably the better way to describe that. I stole that from a customer that we were talking to the other day, and it was like that was how they were planning on monitoring. It's what are the things that are keeping me up at night that I've got the most concern about? That's where I'm going to start. Um, as any good admin, I steal plenty of ideas from people way smarter than I am, and so that's what we've done with our critical infrastructure is start there. Start with those pieces that are most, the ones that you really don't want that message, because I'm going to get a Slack message from you in the evening saying, "Hey, Erickson, the team can't do this. Why?"
100%. 100%. All right, let's see. Yeah, and it starts somewhere, right? If you're getting all the value out of it and the current process is working, think about some of those key use cases that Erickson talked through earlier, and try to embed them into your existing approach with your calendars and email downloads and queries. If that works, do that. If you're looking for a better approach, or there's other questions that we can answer that you want to take offline, I'm gonna do one last check. All attendees. Yeah. Oh, here we go. We got one.
Yeah, Melissa.
Yeah.
I don't know what I don't know. Like, yeah, absolutely. What are some general monitors you should set up? And again, circling back, so I initially had started out very broad with my monitors. Something like an example that I had initially, which turned out to be a terrible idea. So I'll fall on my sword here, but I initially had set up a monitor for any flow change. And while we don't have the most intense amount of change in our environment, I ended up having so many notifications go to my Slack channel that was a terrible idea. And so where I'm going with this is, there are probably, I use flows. We're a heavy flow environment. And so I lean into that. I know of 3 particular flows that are hypercritical to our environment. There's one that's on the new business side when you close one. There's another that does a bunch of things when we close lost opportunities. And then there's another one for some product data that does some linking for reporting and analytics. And between those 3 things, like if any of those things break, it's got massive downstream implications to the environment. And so those were the 3 things that I set up monitors initially. So without knowing your environment, I can't say, hey, you should do it here, but that was how we thought about it when we initially rolled this out. And I've worked with a number of our customers on that as well. And so that's one of those things that have been successful with them.
Good call. Good call. Yeah, and if you already have access to it, obviously we can certainly set up time with and go through helping identify what some of those key use cases are, or for those that aren't, happy to schedule proof of concepts to help you better wrap your arms around how to take advantage of the capabilities. Let's see, we have one more. Is your monitoring app available on the App Exchange?
Yeah. So no, the Arovy application is a connected application. You're going to access it via a web portal. Happy to talk to more. Brian alluded to, there's a number of different problems that we help folks solve across the Salesforce ecosystem. but no, it's a standalone web application.
Arovy.com, and we're on LinkedIn. If anyone wants more information, we got about 3 minutes left. We'll do open it up again. Final call on any live questions. All right, Erickson. Nice work. Thanks for sharing with the audience how to unleash this power. For those that joined, let us know if we can help. Happy to connect, answer questions, follow us, check us out, and we'll connect with everybody soon. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
All right. See you.